She does not have to do it, Kara. I'm going to just cut to the chase. In fact, she's put out policies on her campaign website. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's truly interested can go and read about them. She referenced policies. Mm-hmm. She actually doesn't just have policies and concepts. She has, plans about what to do. I think it's it's a double standard, and it's a double standard that is partly because they are still getting to know her, but also because they're still grappling with the idea like, oh, am I really going to vote for a woman to be president and commander-in-chief?
Meanwhile,
Madam Vice President, Black men, as you know, are a closely watched voting bloc. You've hosted Black men at your residence. Yep. You have engaged Black men and centered them in your economic opportunity tour. Mm-hmm. But polling shows that some Black men, particularly young Black men, are considering voting for Donald Trump, and they see him as better for the economy. What is your message to young Black male voters who feel left out of this economy, and how can your economic policies materially change their lives?
So I appreciate the spirit of the question, but I'll tell you, I've often been asked this question in a way that I've had to respond by first saying that I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that Black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am Black.
All right, guys, so we got to continue our coverage of Kamala Harris's latest interview. That is not actually a real interview. It's just a fluff piece with the National Association of Black Journalists. I meant Black propagandists, right? Because that's what they are, okay? This interview was full of propaganda and softball questions that at points kind of made you want to throw up.
Include, Madam Vice President, Joyful Warrior has been used to describe your campaign.
You didn't see that just a minute ago, though. Yeah. Okay, I'm back to my joyful part.
And your opponent and Republicans have at times weaponized you laughing in campaign ads, for example. Why is joy important to you to insert into this election? And what do you make of Republicans using that as a way to suggest that you're not a serious candidate?
Well, sometimes I think, and I'll say to whoever the young people are who are watching this, there are some times when your adversaries will try and turn your strength into a weakness. Don't you let them. Don't you let them. I find joy in the American people.
Yeah, so what we have here is the least transparent presidential candidate in history that probably has answered the least amount of questions of any presidential candidate in history up until this point in the race. And she was installed via coup against Joe Biden. And you have the American people with pressing questions about what Kamala Harris wants to do. In fact, if you actually pay attention to the undecided voters, and while a lot of them are still withholding their vote from Kamala Harris, it's because they don't know what she wants to do, right? They don't know anything about her, okay? But yet, these so-called Black journalists decide to ask Kamala Harris about joy, right? The rare time that Kamala Harris gives for an interview, they waste 2 minutes, right, of your life asking Kamala Harris a softball question about joy. I cannot overstate how much of a disgrace the liberal media in this country has become, right? I mean, this is just overt propaganda, okay? And I want you guys to understand, there are only really two choices in this race at this point, okay? You have one candidate that is out here literally dodging bullets, okay? And the American people know for a fact what his economy was like. They know what it was like to live under his presidency, right? It was all good, right? It was fine, okay? It was great, okay, at times. And then you have another presidential candidate who's out here dodging questions and interviews and accountability, right? And we also know that under her and Joe Biden's administration, that this country economically is not in a great place, right? I mean, the American people know this. And this is why Kamala Harris cannot tell the American people with a straight face that they're better off today economically than they were 4 years ago, while pretending as if the Biden-Harris policies, economic policies, have been successful. And that's what I want to talk about here in this interview, which was the first question that Kamala Harris, for whatever reason, anytime she's asked about the Joe Biden economy, her economy versus Trump's economy, she can't give a straight answer on whether or not Americans are better off. And that really should tell you everything you need to know about the Biden-Harris administration and the success or really failure of their economic policy. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Madam Vice President, thank you so much for doing this and making the time.
Of course.
Just a little bit busy right now. We want to start on an issue that Americans across the country say is their number one concern, and that's the economy. A question that has been asked of you and everybody that's on the Democratic side is whether or not voters are better off now than they were 4 years ago. Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
So when we came into, well, first of all, let me just say it is good to be with the National Association of Black Journalists, and I thank you for the work you do and that your members do every day. It is very important that we ensure that this organization and your members always have the resources and the platforms to deliver the voices that must be heard. So I thank you for hosting me today.
Now, the only reason she's saying this is because the work that they do is just propaganda on behalf of the Democrat Party, right? If this association was full of Republicans, right, she wouldn't be saying that. In fact, she wouldn't be here, right? She wouldn't be doing an interview.
4 years ago, when we came in during the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. We came in during the worst public health epidemic in centuries. We came in after the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And a lot of it due in large part to the mismanagement by the former president as it relates to COVID and obviously January 6th. And we had then a lot of work to do to clean up a mess. As of today, we have created over 16 million new jobs, over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. We have the lowest Black unemployment rate in generations. We have invested in small businesses, and they're to the benefit of many people, but including Black small businesses, some of the highest rate of creation of new Black small businesses in years. We have done the work of capping the cost of prescription medication for our seniors for issues like insulin. And again, I'm speaking to the Black journalists who care about all people, but in particular, I'll talk about the impact on Black people, where we know Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. And we have now finally capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month, capped the cost of prescription medication for our seniors at $2,000 a year, because we, unlike the former president who promised to do it, we finally have allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices against the big pharmaceutical companies. And these are just some of the accomplishments. Is the price of groceries still too high? Yes. Do we have more work to do? Yes. And I will tell you, I do believe that I offer a new generation of leadership for our country that is about, in particular, turning the page on an era that sadly has shown us attempts by some to incite fear, to create division in our country, and to do the work that is about bringing some level of optimism and, dare I say, ambition about what I know is possible in our country.
Okay, so everybody can see that this is a filibuster. She can't answer the question. How many times has she been asked the same question? Are voters, economically speaking, better off today than they were 4 years ago? Now, what I find to be fascinating about her answer is that the mainstream liberal media has gaslighted us for the past year or so about how the Biden economy is better than the Trump economy, right? This is what they say with a straight face on national television, right? Now, we all know that's not true. Okay, we all know that is false. And we can go through multiple data points in order to back that up. Like, for example, real wages not keeping up with inflation. Okay, wages being stagnant for the most part. Also, on top of that, you have the personal savings rate at a historical low. Okay, you also have consumer debt at a historical high. Well, why is that? Well, it's because people are struggling to get by. They're struggling with the basics. So they have to leverage debt in order to get by. And this is something that's happening more and more and more for the average person because they can't afford Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's economy, right? So we already know that inflation has been raging, okay, over the past 3 to 4 years. Housing is unaffordable, right? There's an affordability crisis in this country. And when Kamala Harris is asked about, okay, is your economy better than the Trump economy, she has nothing. She look, listen, here's the thing. She can't even lie to you with a straight face and tell you that yes, it is. She can't do it. But she can lie about other things like Charlottesville, right? All the other things she lies about on stage, Project 2025. Why can't she lie about this? Well, the reason why she can't lie about this is because she knows that the American people cannot be gaslit on this issue, right? She knows that. Again, it's amazing how they can lie about everything else in the world, but when it comes to this question right here, all she has to do is say, yes, Americans are better off today than they were 4 years ago. It's not like she get pushback for it. It's not like these so-called journalists, these propagandists are going to say, no, that's not the case, and here's X, Y, and Z reason why. No, they're not going to push back. They're not going to debate her on it. So she doesn't even have to worry about pushback, but she still won't lie because the difference is so stark that she doesn't even feel comfortable lying to the American people about it. She'd just rather not answer the question, right? That is how bad it is, right? That's how bad the Biden-Harris economy is. It's so bad that she can't even lie about it with a straight face, like she lies about everything else, right? So if she can't tell you that voters are better off economically today than they were 4 years ago under Trump, then why should you trust her to make the economy better, right? Or any of her economic policies? Why should you trust her to get the work done and to do what she says she's going to do if she can't even tell you with a straight face that the work they've done for the last 4 years has made people better off? She can't even tell you that. She can't tell you that with a straight face because she doesn't even believe it, right? She doesn't believe it.
And so my plan for the economy includes what I imagine and believe and call an opportunity economy. What we can do to grow an opportunity economy where all people have access to the resources to compete, to apply their incredible work ethic, their ambition, their aspirations, and their dreams, and actually not just get by, but get ahead. And I can talk in more detail about it, but specifically, I'll mention a few things.
Yeah.
One of the big issues that affects people right now in terms of the economy and their economic well-being is we have a shortage of housing supply. It's too expensive. People can't afford to buy a home. You know, we grew up, our parents, where they had the ability to somehow believe the American dream was attainable. Not so much for younger working people. And I recognize that. So my approach is a new approach, which is to say, let's just take this and deal with it head on. And part of my approach is to say, I'm going to employ and engage the private sector, in particular home builders with tax credits, to give them the incentive to create new housing, 3 million by the end of my first term, and understanding that not everybody is, handed a silver spoon, but works hard and is trying to save up for a down payment. Part of my plan under my opportunity economy is to give first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance so they can just get their foot in the door to be able to then engage in what will prove to be their opportunity to build intergenerational wealth. And here's my personal experience.
Okay, so here's the thing. She never answers the question, right? I mean, she filibusters the hell out of this question, right? So she's not going to answer the question. My point is this. If your first plan, the Build Back Better plan, failed, okay, and the reason why it failed, one, is because empirically speaking, right, we can say that it failed because of look at the state of the economy, right? You can't even say with a straight face that the economy is better off, people are better off today than they were 4 years ago, okay? The fact that she can't say that tells you everything you need to know about how their plan failed. So if your first plan failed, a plan that Kamala Harris endorsed, and she made a whole lot of key tie-breaking votes on Biden's economic agenda and legislation, right? That, again, she can't tell you with a straight face made people better off than they were 4 years ago. Why should you believe that her current plan going into the future is going to help you? Why should you believe that? You have no reason to believe it. She's not giving you any reason to believe it. She's not answering any questions. Furthermore, I'll reiterate, what I love about Trump's plan versus Kamala's plan is the fact that Trump is not giving out government handouts, okay? Instead, he is incentivizing people to work more, okay? Which is especially important because apparently there are businesses that have shortages of workers to the point where they're begging the government for illegal immigrants, right? That's also part of the illegal immigrant problem, is the fact that apparently, again, according to these business owners, Americans don't want to work. Okay, so how do you incentivize Americans to work? Well, you lower taxes directly, and that is what Trump is doing by eliminating the tax on overtime and tips. He's actually incentivizing people to go out and to work more. If you work more, you're going to make more money because the government's going to take less. And if you want to take that money and you want to go buy a house, then you can go buy a house. If you want to take that money and start a business, then you can go start a business. So yeah, I think that Trump's policies are better overall because it incentivizes work rather than handouts. And, we've already seen the disaster that happens in this country from too many government handouts. Again, look what happened over the past 3 to 4 years. Kamala can't even say with a straight face that you're better off because of the handouts of the Biden administration, right? She can't even say that. She can't say it. So, I mean, more handouts is not going to be the answer. Maybe just allowing the American people to keep more of their own money, right? To work more, right? To incentivize them to fulfill their potential, to become the best version of themselves. Maybe that might be the better path, okay, rather than what Kamala is doing, okay? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.